I'm Matt Martelli. This is the Off-Road Racer Podcast, and I'm here with a good longtime friend, Kyle Jergensen. What's up, man?
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally made it. You're not known for being the super loud social media guy, so
Nope,
I had to kind of like drag you into this, but I think it's important, you know?
It is. That way we can chat it up and see what's new. You know, brought to you by Dr. Pepper.
Right. I wish.
You know, there's 0 calories in that, which I don't understand how, but it is tasty.
It's science. You got to just trust the science, right? So, you know, obviously you, in the last few years of your career, you've had some really big wins, and I feel like you're finally getting the credit that I feel you deserve, you know? But you've been doing this a long time. I mean, you born in Hesperia. You know, your parents raced. I know your mom was a Class 1 champion, right?
She was definitely really good at the powder puff stuff. So we'll throw it way back to when my dad raced motorcycles. So that's where it all kind of started. Is he had the #1 plate in District 37 for a handful of years. Dude can ride a bike. And that's how the family got into it. But then, like anything on motorcycles, eventually you get off, and he got off. Hurt himself a couple times, and he transformed into the cages at that point. And that's where we got into the cars. And that was, 25 years ago now. I was just a little pup back then. I don't remember it, but I can see the pictures, and they're pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I did. So did you start on bikes?
I did. I did start on bikes. I had a KTM 200, and I did the District 37 stuff. I really liked enduros, technical. You had to think when you were riding enduros because you had to keep that same, there was like a pace thing. You had to go a certain speed for a certain amount of miles and then up the rocks. Really liked that. But I got off at the right time. I didn't ever crash, never got hurt, got a couple wins, nothing to call home about, but I never broke any bones. So I'm still healthy. So I'm glad I got out when I got out.
Yeah, bike racing is pretty treacherous. I actually just saw X-rays Travis Pastrana shared with me, and how much hardware he has. And obviously he's freestyle and he's crazy, but yeah, it's pain is the best teacher, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not something you want to learn through.
No, my pops has got a lot of hardware himself, and you can see when he walks around, he feels it. And I think after getting hurt, he was like, I think we get you out. Right now, you're starting to get fast. You're starting to take chances. And then he bought a Class 1 car. And then, you can still hurt yourself, but it takes a lot more to hurt yourself than that. Yeah.
And you were pretty young when you started, right? How old were you?
My first race that I drove was when I was 13 at the Silver State 300. I navigated for my dad for probably 4 or 5 years before that, just to kind of feel it out. But he threw me in there at 13, which still don't know why, but he did. I was a single seat buggy, so I was in there all alone. Right. And, we've heard the story time and time, but we did qualify first, the Silver State 300. It was me. I think it was Chuck Hovey, and then like Sam Barry, Ray Griffith. Like I had no business being in the front of those guys.
That's when Class 1 was stacked too.
Mm-hmm. Even Silver State had a wonderful turnout back then. That's when that was when Silver State had 50 people.
Yeah. Well, and Silver State is like, especially during that evolution, like I think that's a buggy race, right? Yeah. Because, your line of sight's better, you can use cutting brakes, like there's some advantages there. And at that point, trophy trucks hadn't got, where they're at today with the top speed. So
yeah, the buggies were who to be. Barry had that race locked down. Yeah. And I remember like it was some of those moments that you just remember, but I'm all alone. We take off, and you have to go to like 2 pits before you actually get to your pit, because pit 1's a remote. Right. So I go all that time. That was like 80 miles, and I had no radio contact, and I had no idea what the pace was. Like I know now, but I had no idea. I was a 15-year-old kid or something like that. Right. And so I was pushing pretty hard. Yeah. And I get to pit 2, and they tell me, oh, you made 30 seconds on Hovey or something like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Still not knowing that that's probably a good time to back it off a little bit. I stayed full tilt up into the mountains, back down, coming into pit 3, and there's a long 7-mile straight. and I just foot to the floor. And this car had a Cadillac North Star, one of those older motors people were running for many years. Well, it was doing 122, and I call that on the radio and go, everything's going good. I can see the pit. I'm doing 122. My dad comes on the radio and goes, hey, Kyle, that car doesn't do 122. And I go, okay. And it took me a second. I'm doing 122. So no longer than 10 seconds later, just oil lights, everything. I grenaded that motor so bad. So that was my first debut, and we learned a lot. I learned a lot right then.
Yeah.
that and then I sat there. I was out of the car looking around, and then the people started coming by. Like, I had continued to put time on them when I didn't need to.
Right. I blew the engine.
And I blew it up.
That's a pretty funny story. He comes on, goes, it doesn't do what
it doesn't even do it. I must have had that because we had no tack in that car. So It was just a little light that would flicker when you were too high.
Right.
That thing was just on.
Yeah. You're like, what's that light?
What is that light? Well, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So after that, we were kind of jazzed. The whole team was jazzed. Okay, the car just qualified first. We held on for a little bit. Do we put the same motor in it, or do we go bigger? And the North Star was a great motor, but the LS motors were coming out, and everybody was hooping and hollering about them. So we put an LS3 in it, put a torque converter in it, a little bit extra weight from the LS3, maybe a little bit from the torque converter, and the more power. The next race we went to, it couldn't steer. You had so much power, and the front end was so light because it was almost like a Class 10 car. You pick up the front of that car, and if you were on the gas, you just couldn't steer. It was just completely pushing.
Yeah.
We learned again on that one, too. We raced that for a couple races, and we just couldn't keep it in control at that point.
It's an interesting topic that really goes to where you're at now in your career, which is, everybody wants the maximum horsepower, right? But that's not always the best thing, because there's a point, especially in off-road, where, whether it's like what you're talking about is, your car, your weight balance, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have too much horsepower. You're just spinning wheels, right? You're not, if people understand, like, the contact patch for your tire is about the size of your palm, right?
Right.
And then try and do that on dirt, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you're working with. And then you put all what that time would a Class 1 car is like 4,000 pounds, right?
Yeah.
So you put 4,000 pounds on the palms of your hands, try and drive that around in dirt that's changing. And the properties of a buggy are the weight is in the back because the engine's in the back, right? And so it does weird things, right?
It just cantilevers it back there. You get on the gas, the front end comes up 2 feet. Wheels are almost off the ground.
Yeah.
Well, you see that in Baja this weekend. Jason McNeil and those guys beat all the two-wheel drive trophy trucks with double the power.
Yeah. I did notice that was very interesting. Killian texted me the results, and I'm like, and it's a curious question for you because I think you've been on that qualifying loop. Mm-hmm. And how technical is it? Do you think that the technical aspect had something to play into that?
100%. There's no straightaway, especially because they got rid of like the long jump things. It looks like it's like it was only in the back of the ranch, which is like Ojos technical. It's gotten kind of blown out from qualifying, so it's not too rocky anymore. But no, it's a steering game. So those big trophy trucks could have just been getting on the gas and pushing. Who knows? Yeah, obviously not faster.
Yeah, it was interesting because the 4-wheel drives were still faster, but you have 4-wheel drive, right? Mm-hmm. You're rocketing out of those corners, right?
Exactly. Yeah, those things. 4-wheel drive does definitely help you turn.
What? So, and I'm jumping around here because I want to go back and talk about the evolution of your career, but what 4-wheel drives have you had the opportunity to drive?
So I've had quite a bit in the Brenthel all-wheel drive, 2 years in that truck, and then lately with the international cars, and we can jump on that later. Is their Class 1 cars all-wheel drive, so we're playing with that, testing it. I haven't raced it yet, but
yeah. Which is, I thought, was really cool that you're involved in that because, again, it's like, your knowledge, also learning a new thing. It's a new car. Like, nobody really knows what a all-wheel drive Class 1 car is going to do yet,
Yeah, I mean, the RPI guys have had some great luck, but this is a different animal compared to that one. It's more like a trophy truck. Like, it's got portals and all that stuff.
And you're, I think you're an interesting driver because you've, prepped your own vehicles. So you're not a guy who sits back and just shows up and goes, "Hey, it's cool." Right. You give a lot of feedback and you have a lot of knowledge.
I try. And it started the other way. Like when we were racing the buggy back in the day, I was prepping it with my dad, and we'd had a couple mechanics that we would send it off to do like maybe a big prep. But it really helps you understand what you're actually working with. If you have to put the bolts together and figure out why the CV bolts, the CV boots are just blowing apart, just so much you can learn from prepping your own vehicle, but you gotta have some time to do it too. It's quite a time consuming chore.
Well, what was that like? When you're coming up, you're 15 years old, you start racing Class 1 car, and, now not only, you're doing it solo, right? That's a huge thing to understand. And then you're also, whatever you break, you got to fix.
Yeah. Yeah. We were not by no means a high budget team. It was just my family and I pretty much playing around. So the buggy was manageable. Then we built a buggy truck, and that, turned out to be kind of a mistake, but we learned. It was a big, heavy Class 1 car with a body on it.
Sure.
And there was a time where that was becoming kind of the thought of what would be best in Mexico.
Yeah.
Not the case anymore, but we tried it, and it just ended up being too heavy.
Right.
And it was hard to work on. Everything was twice as big now, and it was slow because you could only put so much power to the same transmissions that were running in Sam Barry's car, Hovey's car. We all had the same parts, and now we're trying to push around 5,000 pounds, and they're pushing around 35, 38, just a different animal.
Yeah, it's interesting to talk about the history of vehicles in off-road because, obviously the Ivan Stewart era where that vehicle was pretty light and it became the dominant vehicle. And then really the thing that changed it was the Herbst Truggy and then consequently their trophy trucks, right?
And that was right around the time that my dad decided to build this big buggy. We call it the tank now. We still have it. And it was big and strong and heavy, but slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you couldn't break it physically unless you really messed up, but it would eat itself alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That trade-off between weight and horsepower, it's a paradigm that's still going on right now with the new 4-wheel drive trucks. They're 1,000 pounds plus heavier. Right. And, it's still evolving. It's
definitely still evolving. And weight is good in some aspects, but not all of them. In the bumps, sure, a little bit of weight's nice. But then in the corners, getting from corner to corner, and where you put the weight, too.
Sure.
Where you put the weight. So after we did this big buggy for a little bit, we then, we went to a race. My dad and I went to the Mint, and we were watching qualifying. We were saying, what's the next vehicle that we should try to build or buy, because we saw how fast the Jimco little single seats were, but then we were starting to see these geysers start to win.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, but let's go see how they work. And we were watching the Mint 400 qualifying and Apex going up.
Yeah.
And they just were eating it up compared to the buggies. So that was when we decided, it looks like the Evolution's going with live axle. So we went around, did some research, and financially we weren't ready for a geyser. Just they were proud of them, and they were really expensive. So we started designing our own with Craig Hall, and then kind of like just got the ball rolling. We were thinking about doing something real light, and then we curbed it and ended up talking to Dondell.
Yeah.
And he got us a truck, brand new, one of his lightweight ones. And, it was hard. The dude can sell you an empty water bottle because he could drive the hell out of that truck. So when we saw him drive that thing and qualify first, it was like, well, that's the truck to get. Look how fast that thing is,
Absolutely.
And so we built this pretty much the same truck, minus we had an automatic transmission and he had the sequential in it. And we weren't ready for the sequential. I would watch in-car videos of him and he was really busy up there shifting through 5 gears. And it seemed like the Turbo 400 was more reliable. Yeah. So we went that route. And it was an interesting time. We struggled mechanically with it for a long time. And, there was times where it took the wind out of our sails big time. First race we went to, oil line was loose or something, caught on fire. It was a Baja 500 and just stuff like that. Just kind of will beat you down. And we didn't really have any results as a trophy truck. It wasn't until we switched it to a 6100. Right. As soon as we converted that truck to a 6100, it was indestructible. Right. And we won some races with it too.
Yeah, you did really well.
Yes. I think the big motor.
What was the first race that you won in that truck? Was it Parker?
Silver State.
Okay.
Yeah, Silver State's my jam. I love it up there. Yeah. So we won Silver State, and then I think we got a couple other in that truck. And then Camburg gave us a call right after that.
Yeah.
And Jerry over there was like, hey, we're going to Vegas to Reno. You want to come drive for us? And I was like, wow, didn't even know people would do that. And so sure, yeah. I asked him a couple of questions because I was like, well, how's the suspension? How's all that stuff? And he was confident. Jerry's a confident guy. And he's like, we got the SDG set up. It's badass. I go, great. Let's go try it out. We went testing and I was very impressed.
Yeah.
And the rest is history on that. We ended up winning Vegas to Reno and winning Laughlin right after that with them.
What did that feel like? I mean, because, you'd won a lot of races before that in Class 1 and you were having some success on your own in 6100, but then to do it for a high profile team, was that validating for you? And they were big wins. I mean, I remember Vegas to Reno. That was really, to me, when I watch people's careers, that was like the kind of moment where it felt like to me where you kind of, proved to everybody that you're championship material.
Maybe. I don't think I'm doing anything special in the cab at all. Yeah. It's just something I've just done forever. So, and when someone calls you, like a high profile company like Camburg or Brenth or any of these guys call you, they don't call you to come get second or fifth.
No.
So you have to perform. You have to show up with your A game. You have to do your homework. And it's almost a relieving feeling when you're done. Not necessarily like, wow, yeah, I made it. No, more like, I didn't let these guys down. Because I know that's what they want. They have no business calling me on the team if we're not going to win.
I want to point out, though, too, you were still running General Tire 37s back then.
We sure were. Yeah, no flats. Never going to fly with them.
So it was funny because everybody, because I remember at that point we'd been doing a lot of work with BJ, and BJ was like, in his mind, he's like, I cannot win unless I have 40s, right? And then that happened. I remember I called him, and he's like, I know, I saw it,
It's a love-hate with the small tires. We didn't get any flats with them.
Yeah.
But the people in front of us all had 40s, the trophy trucks and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
So that trench is deeper that you're supposed to be in, and you just scrape the bottom of the car the whole time. So it is nice now that we have all the same tires.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, and again, this kind of, I'm jumping forward, but to me, this is the beginning of you being the illustration for racecraft over equipment and really money too, right? Because fast forward to where you're at now. I mean, you've almost won the Mint overall in a 6100.
We have.
You know what I mean? That almost happened 2 years ago, and I can't state the significance of that more specifically on that race course, right? Because I think that on that race course, 40-inch tires are a big advantage, right? Because of the size of the terrain and how rough it is, right?
Well, especially because nobody blades it anymore like the good old days. I wouldn't say good old days, but that course is rough.
Oh, yeah.
From the beginning. Usually it deteriorates. Well, no, the first lap was just brutal.
Well, and what a lot of people don't understand is that one of the biggest factors in that race course is rain, right? So it doesn't matter what we do. We could go out and blade the whole thing, but it's not going to hold together. It's just going to come right apart after the first lap and be as worse or worse.
Right.
And in particular, what happens is because now that course is being used right now. I mean, there's people out doing UTV tours and they create all those chatter bumps and square edges. And then we go out and look at it like, oh my God, right? And pray for rain.
And the blade doesn't necessarily help you because it goes and then it hits a rock and he just booms it up a little bit, 6 inches. So you have this flat 6-inch thing that just is like a curb you're hitting. It's almost better not to blade it. I wonder if blading it from all those years of blading, if it's what made it so like just a wall.
It's, I mean, being a promoter, we've had to become a lot of things. And one of them is like experts on dirt, right? And, in the desert, everybody thinks that the desert is just this dead mass of dirt, and it's not. There's a lot of vegetation and, life that's in the soil, in the surface of the soil. So when it's disturbed, it dies, and then it becomes silty, rocky, just soil that doesn't hold together. And that's what the nasty stuff is. On top of that, this is Nevada that we're racing in, and it has a lot of embedded rock, right? So you go into these areas where, you think everything's fine, and it's just rock, right? It's pure rock, and it's usually, it breaks, and it breaks backwards, and it looks like fat razor blades, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I do, yeah.
So it's like you couldn't design, a nastier course for a tire. So, the fact that we have to use the same course over and over, and we can't let it rest for a few years and have that top vegetation come back, that makes it challenging.
Oh, I can imagine. So the next thing that, so we won those 2 races with Camburg, which was, awesome. I really liked those guys. And then, we ended up getting a call from Brenth, and that was when we started the Brenth, 4 years with those guys.
Yeah. But you had a previous relationship because didn't you navigated with Jonathan for a while, right?
I did. Yes. I did navigate with Jonathan. I went to kind of half-assed some college down in OCC, and somehow we met down there, and that's where it kind of started.
Right.
Yeah. So when they called us on, that was pretty cool opportunity to drive 12 times a year with them, and we won a lot of races with those guys. They put a good program together, and 2 championships, and and those guys hold a special place in my heart because it was 4 years of my life that we were like family. I mean, we literally went everywhere together. 12 weeks out of the year, we were with them, plus testing, plus talking at the shops, meeting. It was a really cool time. I'm definitely thankful for that.
Yeah, it's interesting too because one of the challenges with off-road racing is seat time, right? And so, how do you grow your skill set if you're not in the seat? And typically, what a team will do is, the truck will, be in prep, being like stuck in prep mode for, a month, 2 months or whatever in between races. And then right before the race, it's ready. You do a little testing, not too much.
A little shakedown.
Yeah, because you don't want to, you want that to be ready for the race course, and then you're racing. And so there's not like, it's very interesting, especially when I talk to the old timers and they talk about the factory programs, like just going out and doing thousands and thousands of miles of testing. It's like, we're not doing that.
We're not. That was what was cool about the Brenth guys is they had a lot of trucks. So we were able to test. We were able to get a lot of seat time, and then 12 races a year with pre-running and everything. I was in the seat a lot for 4 years, and it was a cool experience. Like the whole team morale was, we were like a family. It was a really cool time. I'm definitely glad I did it.
What do you think you learned most from that time?
Well, that's funny you ask. There's a lot of different opinions about the brothers. They're floating around out there. My opinion is very positive. They are very go-getters with their business. I mean, the amount of stuff that they've done in the short time is just impressive. You know, they're building this driving school and building all these trucks is impressive. And they're quite business, savvy. You know, he really knows how to leverage his money, and he knows how to get everything out of it. And it's just really impressive to watch.
Sure.
And we were more than just their employee. I would say we were friends, and he would share his inputs on, hey, I'm doing this, totally not off-road related. Just, hey, I'm building rental homes. I'm doing all this stuff. And it was cool to see how his mind worked.
Sure.
And he's very successful. And I think that helped me because at the same time I was starting my business, mm-hmm. and seeing how they weren't afraid of growth, and the rest of us kind of are. It's intimidating. Employees are intimidating, and that's the most thing I learned from being with them is to just go for it. Just go all in, and you'll make it out.
Yeah.
And then I know Jonathan's crashed a couple of trucks. It's no secret.
Sure.
And what I think, because I've ridden with him testing, I've ridden with him in a race, I don't think he's actually a bad driver. I think he's distracted.
Yeah.
I think he's got so much on his plate that when he's in the cab, he's thinking about work, and that's where he'll make that mistake, that we all see on camera once in a while. Because when he's not distracted, I actually think he's a pretty good driver.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people got to see that side of it because they only see the video of him going,
Right. Yeah, I think that, those guys have done a lot to move the whole industry forward, and they continue to do so, but they take on a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate it because, there are things that we need as an industry to bring more people in, like the Trophy Truck School, mm-hmm. like the Arrive and Drive program, like the ability to, hey, if you want to buy a truck, you don't have to wait 2 years to get it, right? Yeah. So they're definitely, on top of their game. And, it's funny because being somebody who's a very public target of criticism, it's interesting when I see people criticize the Brenthel brothers, and I'm like, why don't you build a truck?
Right.
Why
don't you have 44 employees?
Yeah. Why don't you try doing what they're doing before you start talking smack? And it's the same in racing. It's like, oh, well, I could have did it if I had this much money or whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, you don't, so shut it.
Exactly, yeah. That was that's what I learned the most, was their business approach was impressive, and I'm still impressed every day with them. And I don't think it's I could see us driving again together.
Sure.
They got the new Gen 4 coming out, and I think it's going to be a good truck just by the gossip of what they changed.
Yeah.
And it was time, because the Gen 3 was competitive, I think, 6-7 years ago when I first got in it.
Right.
It was fast for about 4 years, and then all of a sudden they got lighter or something changed, and those trucks were really strong, but they just weren't going the top speed. It was time to evolve.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they saw that and they're making the change. I think it's going to be a huge hit. I think people are going to love it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they're very smart. And they're not afraid to change, I mean, that's the interesting thing too, is like when you look at where we're at, you were talking about Geyser before, is like there was an era of like 10 years where it was like, if you didn't have a Geyser truck, you weren't there. Right. And then, Mason brought out the 4-wheel drives, mm-hmm. and now it's like, if you don't have a Mason,
right.
Now, a couple other manufacturers are starting to creep into that top 5, top 10 spot. Jim Coach has had a really good finish at the 250, which is really impressive with Rob Mack. So, you're starting to see some evolution.
Yeah, I mean, Racer had their run for 4 years or something. They were killing it. And then, like, when I was in the Brenthel truck, I think when we were there, we were hard to beat.
Yeah. That's another thing that I thought was really cool, is like, you had just kind of, to me, in your career, had this coming out party in trucks where it was like, what happens is you win, and everybody goes, oh, well, everybody broke, right? That's the first thing they say to discount what you did, right? And, it was lucky, it was fluke, whatever. But then you came back and you backed it up, and it was like, this is not luck.
Yeah.
Right. And then, you had the career with Brenthel, which had a lot of successes, including, a Mint 400 win,
right?
Which was not just major for you, it was major for them.
Oh, big time.
I remember
that was the first one. That was I think, they won the championship the year before, but then we backed it up going to the Mint.
Right.
And it was kind of like, just to put any rumors out, KOH, Mint, we were 3 in a row that year.
Yeah. And that was, I think that, I remember, we were slapping hands and hugging each other at the finish line. And I personally enjoy that because I like seeing people have their successful moment, both the drivers and, the fabricator, the manufacturers, right? Because it's like, that's what this is about. Prove it. You think you're fast? Prove it.
Yeah.
You think you have a good vehicle? Prove it.
Yeah. And it's not just me. They designed a good truck and then they prepped it. You're only as good as the truck if it makes it. I could be the fastest one in the world, but if I only make it 100 miles because the truck breaks, doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So then you get into, this new relationship that was an old relationship as well.
It was.
With Camburg.
Jason and I never made it out of contact. We became friends. We both are addicted to Diet Coke, and so we stayed in contact that whole time. And then I think Magnaflow bought them, and Magnaflow wanted to go win some races to prove something, their equipment, and I was interested because of Jason. He just tugs at my heartstrings. So I was like, okay, we were talking, and I was like, finally, let's do it. Let's go give it a shot. And so it was a 6100. And it's fast. I think it's the fastest 6100 right now to this day. That thing rips.
Well, it's an interesting platform too because they didn't copy what everybody else was doing.
Right.
They changed some of the weight and balance on that. Talk about that a little bit and how that their truck platform in particular felt.
Well, theirs is the biggest difference is it's a mid-cell, and
meaning the fuel cells in the middle.
The fuel cells in the middle of the car instead of hanging way off the back like most people do it. And there's a lot of haters on that. They think that they need the traction back there, but it's true and it's untrue. That weight in the back with the fuel hanging off the back gets you a bunch of weight for just a little bit, but then you start to burn it off when you're burning your fuel, and then all of a sudden you got a really light truck in the back. So with this mid-fuel, the drive for me, like what I can tell in the cab, is I don't get any growth in the back. Your car starts like this, and when I get to the pit to refuel, it's like this. But when you have a rear fuel, it's 6 inches higher. No matter how well you're good at tuning your shocks, the back of the truck is lighter with no fuel in it.
Well, talk about what is the weight difference that you're talking about?
Well, the weight difference, so we still have 60% rear weight on the rear tires and 40 on the front. And you look at it, a rear fuel, 60-40. Right. So it's the same. I just think where we put the fuel and what it does when it burns off is where the difference is there.
Because it's more consistent.
Because it's in front of the rear tires, and it kind of just lightens the whole truck up together. Your whole truck just gets lighter instead of just the back of your truck that gets lighter.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah. But you're talking about hundreds of pounds of change in fuel burn, right?
Right.
So that's going to radically change the suspension setup, which changes the and how the car seats, how it corners, all of that, right?
Huge. And to backpedal to our first 2 races, I don't remember the year, but I didn't know it was a rear fuel. Nobody told me. I didn't go and investigate myself. It looked like a rear fuel to me.
Right.
You're
like, oh, it's just like a really truck.
Yeah, let's do it. And I would never know the difference. It had wonderful traction. When you get on the gas, the back squatted. It didn't go and lose traction. Would never have known. And we're winning today, so I think it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because the Mint is one of the only, if not, it is the only off-road race where we have timing sectors, right? So we've looked at the overlays of you against, 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive with 1,000 horsepower, double the amount of horsepower. And you're faster in sections in your truck than some of the sections in those trucks.
I think the Camburg truck is just like it's perfectly hooked up. And the other guys, on the big motors are spinning, messing around, making a bunch of dust, but it doesn't actually go any faster. I think the whole 6200 class in general is just like, I think those are the perfect amount of power for the platform. You're hooked up all the time. You have very little wheel slip. Yeah. And especially getting to the corners, you can actually turn the thing because you get on the gas and it doesn't just try to wheelie or go straight. You have a locked diff in the back, so it's not like you can go like this. You kind of always have to be broken loose in a trophy truck to turn them. And with all that power, I don't think it's any better. I know it's not any better because I've raced trophy trucks, I've raced 6100, and I will choose 6100 every time because it is so much more enjoyable to drive. You can beat on it all day because the trucks are designed to handle thousands of horsepower, and you cut it in half, so the parts are just, they don't even know they're running.
Right.
And then you get into the mountains and the corners, and it's just like, I don't know, it just works better. Everything works better with the less power.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So as you're going through this program with Camburg, they decide to start developing products, right?
Yeah.
What was that? The brakes thing seems necessary and obvious, right? Shocks that one was a stretch, you know what I mean? Because it's like your shocks are so dialed in at this point. You're kind of like,
right,
why are we messing with them, guys?
We had a really good shock package before.
Yeah.
But they explained to me, because I asked the same question. I said, if it's not broke, why fix it? Well, they said, I think we need to poke the bear on the industry, and we need it to be in a winning truck to prove to other people that it can win.
Sure.
And I said, well, I guess that makes sense. So let's give this a whirl. I said, with one condition, we need to test adequately, and we need to do enough of it to where we don't go to the races and embarrass ourselves. And so the brakes have always been something that I care deeply about because brakes are another tool that I have. I only have so many tools in the cab. I got my steering wheel, my shifter, and my brakes. That's all I really got, and the gas pedal. So they all need to work perfectly so I can manipulate this truck to turn faster. And most trucks have horrible brakes. You press it, spongy, and I'll admit, when we first started this venture with their new brakes, they weren't any better. And I kept telling them, it's no good, it's no good. And it was cool because they didn't give up. They didn't get discouraged. They said, well, all right, well, what are you looking for? And what I was always looking for was I wanted really good brakes right now. They need to be cold and they need to work. A lot of the compounds and rotors, all that stuff wanted to be real hot. Well, I don't keep the brakes very hot. They're pretty much, I don't touch them until I need everything. So they were able to get that for me. And right now, I think they're the best brake package I've ever had. They really, and it wasn't just, and I know they're building calipers and they make a good caliper, but it was also finding the right compound for the brake pads, the rotors, the master cylinder, the throw on the pedal, the ratio on the pedal. Like it's almost needs to be sold as a whole package from Camburg. Hey, we figured it out. This is where you have not too hard of a pedal, but not too soft of a pedal, and it can stop this 6,000-pound truck like that. But yeah, they're dialed in now. It wasn't without some pain though.
That was the interesting thing is like I'm friends with both both Jason and Jerry, and they both have their qualities. But one thing that they do both share is they're both obsessed with making products that are better. Mm-hmm. It's this weird thing that when you think about their path, where literally they started this out of their garage to build, surf racks, you know what I mean? And ended up in lift kits and then, built the whole world of Camburg and suspension. And then two, you've seen suspension ideas that they have, get adopted into, OEM vehicles and OEM vehicle packages. And then you go to where they're at now, like it's pretty cool.
It is. And one thing that I'd like to note about their relationship is they're very different people.
Yeah.
Both great guys, but they are completely on the different side of the spectrum on how they run. Jason is definitely more hands-on, and Jerry is the business end of it.
Sure.
Outsider looking in, I don't know all the details, but the fact that they kept a relationship and a partnership for 20 plus years now, that's hard. I mean, it's like a marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, they got along for that long, and they didn't fight, didn't break up, and they're still making parts. And then they were able to sell their company to a wonderful company like MagnaFlow. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, and that I know quite a bit about the relationship with MagnaFlow. It's interesting because now they have the back end to do whatever they want.
Right.
It's like one of the challenges you run into in manufacturing is manufacturing capabilities, which means money. Mm-hmm. It means, having the facilities to manufacture goods. And it's wild that there are brands out there that get to a point and they're like, we can't go past this because we don't have the finances to do it. And even if we had the finances to do it, there isn't a factory that exists around here that can do this. Right.
And you see that, we've seen that because MagnaFlow builds things. They build great things, but they build a lot of them. Yeah. And then some of this R&D that we're doing, and it's a little bit more technical. So finding the right machines, even with MagnaFlow's capabilities, has been tough. And Jason has expressed the concern. I'm struggling a little bit because we want to get these shocks into production, but we're trying to find where and how to build them. They have to be perfect. It's not necessarily just a put it on your Raptor, and if it doesn't make it down the freeway, you're okay. But this has to work because people's races are counting on them. People even can get hurt if something fails.
Well, and they really believe in the idea of technology being proven in racing, mm-hmm. then being built out to street products, right? And that's what off-road racing. That's the biggest value of off-road racing.
Yeah, when you're trying to buy a lift kit. Now, I'm against lift kits. Every one of my company trucks or personal trucks are stock. If I want to go off-roading, I do it in the right vehicle. But that's just me. There's a lot of people who they do build a really good lift kit, and they've veered the Camburg way because they see their results and go, okay, well, if they can make that work, and then they're taking some of that technology and putting it into my personal truck, I'm going to go that route.
Sure.
Makes sense. I would do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why I think the race program is still around, because there's no way the race program makes any money, and they've make that very clear that it is simply to prove their parts.
Yeah.
My only complaint, and I let them know all the time, is we need to race more.
Sure.
We're doing four races a year, and the last one's a Mint, the next one's California 300. That's a big gap.
Yeah, it's a big gap. The other, talking about the shocks in particular, like when Jerry started talking to me about those, I was like, man, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. Mm-hmm. But then once Jason and Jerry started explaining to me the things that they thought that they could improve and the why, I'm like, okay. Because when you look at complexity of manufacturing and you go, okay, you're going toe to toe with King, Fox, Bilstein,
right?
Icon, like all these brands that have years and years of shock knowledge and manufacturing and all this kind of stuff,
and patents.
And patents. Right?
And MagnaFlow obviously is trying to make these available to the public, so it needs to be legal. That way they can sell them.
Of course.
And that's been, a hurdle of itself. They have tried some new things, and they are working very well. I think it's a really good working shock right now, but it did not start that way. They definitely, we did, I would say, 10 test sessions before we were like, okay.
Yeah.
And they were learning the whole time, tolerances for the O-rings and all that stuff that, they just learned as we were going. Luckily, we had Wayne from Alltech kind of guiding us in the right direction. He did a really good job. He knows his game.
Yeah, Wayne is wizard.
Yes, he gets all Rain Man-y on us sometimes. We got to bring him back down, but
yeah, I love him.
Yeah,
he's great. Yeah. It's funny because now lately he's been putting out some social media videos.
I know,
and they're hilarious.
They are.
He's just being himself, mm-hmm. right?
That's him. That's him. So. We spent a lot of time with Wayne because we used to test with Wayne when we were with Brenthel. So I think I've been with Wayne for 6 years now. And so I get his jokes, you know, he's a good guy and he really knows how to tune a truck. That's for sure.
Yeah. He's another one of these guys in the industry that has just a ton of knowledge, mm-hmm. And not only can help you with, products, but he's the wizard when it comes to vehicle setup.
He does. He knows a lot. He's ridden with some very, very good people. He had like many years with Rob Mack. Yeah. So I couldn't imagine what he learned in the cab with riding with Rob Mack.
Yeah. That was the first live test in an event of the Fox system, or the live valve system, the beginning of it, right? Which was Wayne riding with him, doing adjustments as they drove, right, rather than the computer.
Right, yeah.
But that was pretty exciting to see the development of that technology.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a good run. I think the production Camburg shocks I think they're called Kinetik shocks, actually, but they're coming out soon, I believe. Because I believe this next race at the 300, we're supposed to have the production set on there. The last two were, trial and error. You could tell that there was weld and grind marks on them. They were fixing stuff. But now I think they're supposed to be the ones. We'll see.
Excuse me. Yeah, absolutely. So for you, what is the most exciting thing about this for you? What's the thing that you love?
Oh boy. I've raced a lot less since I left Brenthel, and it definitely gives you more time to think. You're watching races from the outside, and I just think I fell in love with being in the desert. I've always done it, and there was times where it felt like a chore when we weren't having good results. But in the hindsight, I think I just enjoy being in the desert, in that little group of friends you have. Everyone out there is successful in their own way. There's no knuckleheads out there. I mean, they've all either started a business or are running a business and have their own money. They have these trucks that cost $500,000. They're obviously no slouch. So these is the people you surround yourself in the off-road industry are, I think, what keeps bringing me back. Is for me on that one.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too. It's also this funny regional thing where you grow up in Hesperia and you're generally not a basketball fan, right? You're in the mecca of off-roading. You can literally drive out of your house,
And that's what we did as kids. I had my motorcycles, but I really fell in love with my Rhino 660. You drive right out the front door, and we were on dirt. You've been there, dirt road.
Oh yeah.
So I would just disappear after school for hours, and I learned a lot of car control with that thing because it was only like this wide, so I just wanted to tip over a lot. So I really knew what it felt like to feel the little bit of tipping, and that I think indirectly has helped me become successful now. I didn't think I was doing anything special, but when I was driving the Rhino down the road on two wheels, I think I learned something about that.
Sure. Car control.
Right.
Balance, all the fundamentals.
And now I always like a vehicle with like little to no sway bar. When it gets to the corner, the body roll's going to stop. Most people, it freaks them out. And I don't know. I just have a lot of seat time, so I could feel it. And it's going to stop.
Right.
The other thing about what's special to me is I get to do it with my friend Sean.
Yeah.
He's kick-ass. And we met in high school. We played ball. So I played football, I played tennis, and I played basketball. I had no business playing basketball, but I was tall. So They put me on the team. Tennis, I was just there, whatever.
Right.
And it was good to learn because now I feel like I'm okay at pickleball, but that's the only thing I got from playing tennis. But football, Sean and I and our team up there we were big for our age at the time. We were tall, we were big, we were strong, we were into working out. So we were on the football team, and we were not friends like we were friends today. He was in a different group, and I was just there. He was a little more popular than me, I would say the word is. But but with Sean, this is something that sticks in your head. I'll always remember it. Is he would hit people really hard, crazy. Dude's crazy. So if you know anything about football, they kick it off. The guy receives it, and they have like the front line drops back and makes like a wedge. Well, they would always put Sean in as wedge breaker. And he would run down full force, and this is 250 pounds of muscle, and he would just break the wedge open and just destroy kids in the process. And, special teams were always a place that you would put people that don't play a lot. Sean he was a full-time player, but they'd put him in there because he was crazy. But these little kids, Jimmy would need to just get some playtime. That way he felt important. So they put him on the wedge brake, and Sean would just fucking destroy him. I mean, helmets off, stretchers and shit. I'm glad he was on my team. That's all I have to say about that. Is I'm glad he's on my team, and I'm glad he's on my team now because he is a really good co-driver. But I'll always remember that in high school, seeing him just annihilate people. So it's always something that I keep in the back of my head when I'm, prepping for the race. Grab your helmet, your shoes, you're getting your bag ready. Always got to grab a tranquilizer gun for Sean, because if he ever goes crazy again, I don't want to have to deal with that without a little bit of help,
Right.
The dude is wild, and I'm just glad he's on my team.
How important is that to have somebody in the car that you trust, that you have a relationship?
No, it's wonderful. I trust every call he gives me. And he's never wrong. He does his homework with me. We always pre-run together. And he came into the sport super green, and he is not green anymore. He knows what he's doing now, even mechanically. He wasn't much of a mechanic before, but we spent our time in the desert working on stuff, and he just picked it up really quick. So it's good now. If we need to do something, if we need to change a tire fast, he's a big, strong guy. He gets out there and manhandles that tire around. It's someone you want to have in the cab with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does that give you more confidence as a driver to go like, hey, I got my team. This guy's here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because when I'm pushing through the dust, hunting somebody down, when he tells me, no, it's straight, I leave my foot in it. Even though I can't see my hands, it's so dusty. Yeah. He tells me we're good. And, that's a level of trust that you have to have, because you could not only hurt somebody else, but you could hurt myself, him, we both have families. We have to keep that in mind.
Sure.
And it's super important. I don't like when I have to ride, or if he can't make it for qualifying or something, and I'm with someone else and I'm listening to them make these calls, I go, you sure about that? Like, I totally second guess it.
Yeah.
If it's not Sean.
Yeah. It's interesting to see the relationship between drivers and co-drivers with the more successful racers, and all of them have somebody that's like their dude, right?
Yeah, you can't be changing up. And I think the only person that does that is Rob Mack. I think Rob Mack just has whoever wants to get in there now.
I don't think he listens.
I think they sell the seat.
What's funny is I remember him and his son racing together, and they're arguing, right? Yeah. And I'm like, all right, of course you want to teach your son your craft, right? But you're giving up really an advantage when you don't have somebody that can help improve your performance.
Right. No, I wouldn't want it any other way. He definitely kicks ass. Good to have someone that you can trust in there, and you don't have to shop around. Trying to teach someone, it kind of goes back to the thing where when they call Sean and I, they call to win. Like, they don't want me to show up and go, hey, who's your co-driver? And I go, well, I just found the guy on the way here. He's, do you got a helmet for him? No, we come as a package. Sean has his helmet painted the same as mine, suit. We're a team. And I think that's helped with our success because, we're in it together, and he loves it. I think he loves it. At first, I think he was a little leery, but I think he's all in now.
Yeah. Well, again, it's funny do you think part of that is the success you guys have had?
Yeah, yes. He came in, he missed the bad area. So we had probably 7 years of mechanical failures that were not driver related. They were just, the cars just weren't making it. And I had an old co-driver named Travis, who was also a really good friend of mine. And he was a diehard too, great guy, strong. And he was with me during all the bullshit. And then he got hurt at work. He worked for a pipe company, and something hurt his back. And he said, I can't make this next race. And I said, oh shit. All right. And then I called Sean, and then we just happened to win. Like, it was totally not Sean's fault or Sean the reason, but we won. And then Travis's back was still hurt, and we did it again. And Sean was getting better and better and better. And here we are.
Right.
Wouldn't do it any other way.
Besides your wins up here in the States, you've had some good luck and some bad luck in Baja.
I sure have. Baja is a love-hate. just this last year, I got to join the Justin Davis team.
Yeah.
And what a cool group of guys. I was honored to get the phone call from him. We've been competitors since we were little kids, and now he wanted to team up. And what was strange is he wanted me to start and qualify. And that's not really common for someone who has their own truck. They want to qualify, they want to start, and they just throw another driver in after. But he's like, no, I want to do the night. And I don't like the night. So I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So those guys were super friendly.
Yeah.
And the dad's got a badass house on the beach in Estero Beach.
Oh, he's super cool.
Yeah.
Guy too.
No.
Like it's funny because like I know him pretty well, and Justin's dad is like, he's like the guy you always want to hang out with.
Well, yeah. And it's funny with those guys is Justin is just super calm. Yeah. It's hard to get a little bit of a reaction out of him. We've seen all those memes where we're like, does he smile? And we would always fuck with him. Look at, he's smiling right now. Yeah. But his dad and his brother are completely the other side. Yeah. They are much more animated. And it was interesting to see the two sides there. But once again, another bad luck with that. So we qualified first, and then we went all the way to race mile 300 with a comfortable lead all day.
Yeah.
And the tie rod bolt, we're assuming, fell out, because if it broke, I didn't give it a reason to break. It was just on a straightaway, and then all of a sudden the wheel went that way. And when I went to put another bolt in, my pit was only like 100 yards away, which was just like the timing was weird. And so I literally ran to the pit, grabbed the bolt, and I'm trying to put it through the tie rod, through the spindle, through the upright, and the hole is like big, like, 3/4. So I'm like, okay, so I'm trying to put a 5/8 bolt through it. And it was only a 1/2 inch because the misalignment was only a 1/2 inch. So I think that bolt was loose for a long time, and it just wallered itself out and finally exited, but just stuff like that. Like, we'll have a good run with a good team, and then something like that. How often does your tie rod bolt fall out?
Yeah,
while you're in the lead, 10-minute lead, cruise control all day. I'm a couple 100 miles away from giving the truck to Justin, which I knew was my whole plan that race, is just, he's the ringer. Get him something and he'll take it in, no problem. The dude knows how to win in Baja.
Yep.
And I just can't seem to seal the deal down there.
Right.
So that was another one. A bust, I don't know if we're getting a phone call back, but it was a fun time. I really like driving their truck.
Yeah. Well, like you said, that was a mechanical, not, driver error, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a head scratcher. We're still wondering why that came out.
Do you feel like you still have something to improve?
Well, I on my, we all make a little 5-year plan business wise. Well, one of the little notes in there is I still want to get a Baja win. I haven't given up on it yet. The wind is knocked out of my sails. I've raced down there for the last 8 years, got a couple seconds, couple fourths, but no wins. Yeah. So I just can't seem to seal the deal down there. And I don't know why, because I think we're showing up with the right attitude. We're pre-running correctly. I think there's a little bit of luck in there.
Yeah, it's just like any other off-road races, like the chaos theory comes into it, right? Mm-hmm. So you have all these variables and everything needs to go perfectly right for you to win, right? And, it could have been the bolt wasn't hardened in that batch.
Right.
You know what I mean? It could have been something like that. That's
because their prep guys are proven to win.
They're good. They know what they're doing.
There's no way they left that bolt loose. Yeah. No way. It's just, you're like, why? And then so like when we were doing all those racing with Brenthel, little things like that would pop up too. I just think Baja finds any little weakness.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that the pace down there right now is a little bit too aggressive in my opinion.
It's fast.
It's fast.
Especially, really in all classes, but especially at the top. Like when I'm looking at, the speeds that the trophy trucks, the 4-wheel drive trophy trucks are doing down there. I'm like, man, I remember a few years ago, and I think it was Amputia's first win, and they were pushing so hard that all of us were standing around going, they're going to be out by the second pit. They're driving way too hard.
Way too hard.
Right? And then you get to the second pit, and like they're still in front, right? You get to third pit, they're still in front, right? And that was the year like they ran out of tires, got a flat, lost the jack, had to go back, find somebody with a jack. And you're like, yeah, they're out, right? They're out. And I forget who was in the lead, but I think it's Toby, right? But they broke, right? And then all of a sudden they're back in and they win. And I'm like, I don't understand. They drove the piss out of this car that really was a platform that was still being developed, right?
Right.
And, and now that's the way it is. It's like, it's 100%
all the time. And I have a hard time with that because I'm used to all the years ago where we were racing trophy trucks where it was really just a finish thing. Whoever finished and didn't have, too many flats would win.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, don't even think about the truck braking, even though it still can. Just you really need to push hard all day and be at the top of your game, because if you don't, someone else is going to have a good day and run full speed all day.
Yeah.
Well, that in the 6100s in the score series at the start, they start them 30 seconds apart. And you're going up through Ojos, and it is absolute chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk to any driver, it is horrible, because if you back off to let the dust clear, you're going to get freight trained by somebody else. So you have to push through the dust. You're probably not going to get through it, but you have no choice.
Yeah.
It is the craziest experience. Every time I do a 6100 start, it is awful.
Yeah. No, especially because, okay, so you get through all the windy stuff off the start, you hit the road crossing, and you're like, there's a little bit of reprieve for a few minutes, right? A few miles there. There's a couple little washes to go through. Then you drop down, and then you're single tracking again.
Single track again. And it's silty, dusty. And, we do okay at qualifying most of the time. So we're typically somewhere near the front, and so the fast guys are also right there with us. And there's a couple nutty ones, I always joke they're friends of ours, but the Grabowskis.
They're crazy.
They're crazy. No one, I don't get hit a lot, but Dustin has punted me like 5 times.
Yeah.
And it's been in Baja and blind out dust. I can't see anything. And all of a sudden I get hit. And I go, how did he, whatever,
No, they're definitely not afraid.
Yeah. And well, this weekend, the brother Grabowski had one hell of a run in that Brenth truck. You know? That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, like driver styles, and to your point, there's this thing where like you go, okay, guys, we're doing a 400 mile, 600 mile, 1,000 mile race. Let's pace ourselves, right? And it seems like now that's just out the window, and it's like, how hard can you drive, for as long as you can drive,
It's so I've gotten caught sleeping a couple times.
Sure.
And because I was like, I'd start up front and I wanted to see how the race would progress, because that's kind of how you used to do it back in the day. Let's just click some miles off and let's get our feet wet. Well, sure shit, pit one, I started first. And then they tell me, second place is 10 seconds behind you. Third place is 10 seconds behind him. I go, oh shit, I just roadblocked this whole thing.
Right.
So that changed my mentality in spec racing. Now I'm changing up to where I start the race pretty aggressive, go a couple pits and see who came to play. Who am I worried about? And then if I can, I'll back it off after them. But I always used to start slow and then pick it up in the middle. It's different now. There's no room to go slow at the beginning.
Well, and would you agree that in particular in Spec Truck, you can drive as hard as you can and the truck can take it. Whereas Trophy Truck, it still seems like if you push too hard, you're breaking the truck.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's what's so cool about Spec, is because you can go foot to the floor, and unless you hit something big or crash it, you're fine. The truck can handle itself very well.
Which brings me to one of the things that I really like and am impressed about you is your racecraft, right? It's like, when you look at your decision making throughout the entire race, that's why you're winning. And Larry Ragland said this to me, long time ago, is that, the race isn't, 400 miles. The race is 401 mile races, or, from corner to corner, whatever the distances are. Right. So it's this weird kind of like, cumulative thing that gets broken down in all these micro performances, right? And so when you look at your performance, like 2 years ago at the Mint, and it's like you're not making mistakes. You're maximizing and carrying. And again, so another question is, do you think that comes from the years of racing Class 1 and understanding that you have to, be smooth, carry your momentum, not be, smashing the wheels on the outside and blowing the corners and relying only on horsepower, because, your driving style is very smooth and consistent. And then when you look at your split times, and again, this is what's been funny for us, because we're looking at times in sections at the Mint because of the timing gates. And so we can go like, wow, Kyle beat everybody here, but then here's the dry lake bed and trophy trucks shine. They're doing 160 right, or whatever. And so they gained, and then it gets technical again. Kyle catches up, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what spec racing, it's a momentum class. So you have to keep your speed in the corners. And we all kind of know that. Us top drivers, Connor, all these guys know that in the straightaway, we're pretty much doing the same speed. So the only time that we can shine on one or the other is who hits the corner faster. So what I do with my racing lately, and this kind of throws it way back to my football coach who was a kook, but he said one thing that stuck with me. And he used to say, win. And what does that mean? And then finally he explained it, one of those huddle things. He goes, what's important now? I go, okay, all right, cool. It didn't really click until it was later in my life when I was racing these trucks, and I realized that I would get distracted. I'm so comfortable in the truck that I would get distracted and start thinking about work, start thinking about something else. You're just driving these trucks, and I would zone out, and that's when I'd make some mistakes. So I brought that back into my life. When I'd start to zone out, I'd bring it back in. I go, there's nothing you can do to fix any of those issues now. Just drive the damn truck.
Right.
So I use that in like the corners. I go, what's important right now? And that is this corner coming up. How can I take it as fast as possible without losing a tire, without breaking something? And then the next corner, I do it again. Right. And that's how we do it. It's one corner at a time in the spec class. How fast can you take these corners? And then hopefully on your lap 3, you end up having a 10-minute lead, and then you can just drive in a circle the last lap. That's the way we've been doing it lately, at least in my own head.
Sure.
Because your mind just wanders.
Right.
Easy to do.
No, it's very easy to do. I mean, when you're talking about, it's again, comparing it to, pavement racing where you have a mile loop or whatever it is, and you're trying to perfect this 1 mile course. Our style racing is very different. Like the Mint, I'll use as an example because, you have 100-mile loop. That's right. A lot to remember.
Well, and it changes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's changing.
It's. I mean, you do your homework, but it's still probably 400, 500 turns, if I had to guess, or more. And every corner, you think you got it figured out, but then the guy in front of you knocked the rock into it. So you really have to drive what you can see. That's why off-road racing's so hard. It's changing. And you're in this hot truck, and it's not that smooth. Like, let's face it, I know the pictures look all badass and the wheels are going like this and the cab's staying super straight. You still feel those. So you're getting beat up all day.
It's physical, and I think that's one of the misnomers is like, and you're one of those guys that I know you've broken fingers and, you come out of the truck and your shoulders are blown out because you've been wheeling it or lost power steering or had feedback.
Yep. We've had our fair share of power steering failures. I don't know why I find those, but they find me. And I've had thumbs, get ripped out. I lock my thumbs. It's comfortable to me. Everybody says don't do it, but I have to do it. So when that thing loses power steering and it rips out, it gets you.
Yeah.
It hurts. This one's still a little sore. And it's probably a year ago since we've had an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's rad. Yeah. One of the other races that you've won multiple times now is King of the Hammers, which is it's a rough race. It's particularly hard, I think, in trucks because the elevation changes are so tight. Obviously Barstow's kind of your backyard. That's over Johnson Valley. It's not super different,
do a lot of testing in Johnson Valley, and especially while I was on Team Brenth, that was our testing grounds, was Johnson Valley. And so I just really know it very well.
Right.
And I think a lot of our success, besides that, I've just had good teams behind me, Brenth, you know, Camburg, both of those gave me fantastic trucks to go win, but they also send the race up into the mountains. And I love that stuff. I eat people up in the turns. You know, we get on the straightaways and the crazy kids can hang it out way more than I can, but I can reel them in the corners. And there's a lot of corners at KOH. So I think that's where our success has come from.
Yeah.
You know,
no, that's cool. It's a, you know, again, when I look at particular races and race courses, I look at the difficulty of them. And from a promoter standpoint, like, we want to make them hard, but not too crazy, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And so that area has always been interesting to me because I think it's a very difficult area to race in for trucks in particular because of the elevation changes.
Definitely a lot of elevation change and a lot of different tracks. You're in the rocks, but they're sharp rocks.
Yeah.
You know, they're really good. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you get to an area where it's like round moon-like rock. So you kind of have to really be able to adjust. And then they throw you on some really high speed stuff for a long time. So your gearing has to be able to do the mountains and the fast stuff, which I think the Camburg team and I have nailed, but some people aren't getting that gearing right. And then they're only fast in one area and not fast in the other. And that's where we kind of sneak up on them a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, you know, future, you know, from this point on, what is it you want to do?
Well, I'm looking for race wins and some championships. I've created a really good, like, to step away from the racing thing. I've created a good team of my business, which is concrete. I have a really good team behind me and they're doing a wonderful job. So I have a little bit more time and I'm able to step away a little bit easier and go to qualifying and do these things. So I think I want to do a little more racing. You know, I want to get back and do, you know, maybe 7-8 races a year is what I'm shooting for. You know, it all depends on finances and everything like that.
But, yeah, an opportunity.
Yeah. But I really want to, whoever wants to go win some races, you know. So moving forward, you know, we're on Team Camburg. We got the California 300 coming up, and then we're going to Rage at the River after that. 2 wonderful races that I think that we're going to show up and be a team to beat.
Right.
You know, this big gap that we've had from the Mint to the California 300. Not thrilled about it. Yeah. But it gives you time to do some other stuff.
Sure.
We are going to the Legacy race in a couple weeks. I guess it's 3 weeks. The 1000 mm-hmm. that one. We're going to race with Kurt and Chuck Dempsey in their Brenth truck. So cool. We're excited about that. And then this international cars thing. This is starting to develop. They have their Class 1 car out, and we're going to do some legacy racing with them. And I don't know what I'm allowed to say about it, but I do think Jason over there at the International is doing some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a chance to prove it at any races, but we have done some testing, and they've gone surprisingly better than what was expected. You know, usually a brand new platform, you're expected to grenade something.
Sure.
But not yet. Yeah. So I'm excited about that, to try some more 4-wheel drive stuff out, and hopefully they you know, keep us on the team. We enjoy it so far. They're nice people, but we need to get out there and race, you know, where we've done some testing. They've done it's been a long time coming. They've been building these things for a while, but now it's time to prove them.
Yeah.
So it's my turn, I guess. You know?
Nice.
Yeah. So,
awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing you race more.
Yes.
Thanks for coming and doing this. That was awesome.
Yep. No problem.
All right.
Cool.